Good afternoon. This is Veterans Talk. It ain't nothing but a thing, but it's a thing we want you tuned into every Saturday afternoon. I'm Elsa McGee, your host, and I'm here with my co-host and cohort, Tony. Tony been cruising. He been all around the Caribbean, so we'll get a minute, Tony. So tell us what you've been doing, brother.
Yeah, I've been relatively busy. I volunteer with several other organizations, and one of the organizations had a conference in Puerto Rico, so I was down there for 7 days, and then after that, I took the cruise, a nice 8-day cruise. I had some challenges on the cruise, and most of the challenges was created by me. But one of the things I found out about is genuinely how nice people are and how helpful people are. Now, I'm going to share this with you. I'm not proud of it, but every cruise I'd gone on before this went out of Fort Lauderdale. And so one of the things you should learn to do is read the fine print. On the fine print, it said that the cruise ship was definitely leaving out of Orlando. I flew to Fort Lauderdale. On the way to Fort Lauderdale, I had to check to make sure, because one of the things, well, let me just back up to the true beginning. When I got out of the Uber at Atlanta Airport to go and catch the flight, I left my phone in the Uber. Guess where all the information about the cruise was?
In your phone.
On the phone. So I got there. Well, the interesting thing is, once I got out of the Uber, I was standing there making sure I had everything. And when I hit my pockets, I realized I didn't have my Uber. And I said, I left my phone in the Uber. There was a young lady walking by, and she said, "What's your number? I'll call them." Without even prompting her, she called the number. Of course, the Uber driver is in Atlanta airport traffic, and so she couldn't stop. But she could hear the phone ringing, apparently, in the back seat of the Uber. Anyway, I waited around. I went ahead and checked in, walked back out to the front just to see if she heard the phone and realized it and would come back. Well, after about 15 minutes of waiting, I realized I got a flight to catch. And at Atlanta Airport, you truly have to be there 2 hours before your flight leaves, because the lines were that long. So went through, checked in, went through security. Everything went well, except by the time I got to my gate, the flight was gone. I went like, oh man. Well, to make a really long story short, everybody was extremely helpful in helping me get in contact with the cruise, getting in contact with the cruise, reconnecting with everybody. And so I'm really, really excited, and I am really impressed at the fact that in America, a lot of people are very, very kind and very, very helpful. And they were extremely helpful in helping me navigate my lost phone, my flying into the wrong airport, and then, yes, flying into the wrong airport, but reconnecting with the cruise line. Now, once I got to the wrong airport and to the wrong hotel, I contacted the cruise people, and they said, there is no cruise out of Fort Lauderdale. Your cruise is leaving out of Orlando. And I went, what? And so they said, don't worry about it. We got you covered. He said, hold on. I waited about 2 to 3 minutes on the phone. He came back on. He said, this is what you need to do. We're in Orlando. Go back to the Fort Lauderdale airport. There's a shuttle that leaves and goes to Orlando. Take that shuttle to Orlando and come to the hotel. The shuttle will leave at 12:45 at night, but it'll get you here by 4 o'clock, which is in plenty of time to catch the cruise. And that's what happened, you know. So I got there, and everything was just fell in order. But the one thing, like I said, I was impressed at how genuinely kind most people are in helping you when you're in a stressful situation or you're having a challenge. Because all I did at the airport in Washington, D.C., because I flew from Atlanta to Washington, D.C. to Fort Lauderdale, I just asked the lady, I said, this is my situation. I explained it to her. She said, no problem. She went online, looked up the cruise, called the number, and got me in contact with the people. Yeah. So it was just very, very helpful and very rewarding, and it made me feel good to be with people who are really to help you. Yeah. And so beyond that, everything went well. How I got my phone back? The Uber driver. After she dropped me off, she carried the phone to my house and put it on my porch. So after the cruise, when I got back home, because I'm trying to figure out, how am I going to get my phone? Because I got back on a Sunday. On Monday, I was leaving to go to Savannah for a retreat for the board members at Positive Impact Healthcare. And I'm going like, how am I going to do this? And so I'm walking up to my house and look, and there's my phone on my porch. Wow. So I carried it in, plugged it in, because all of the information about the retreat was on the phone. Wow. Wow. But it all worked out. That's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah.
Oh, so, hello.
It was.
Rev wanted to take a day off today. Put me on the spot per usual. He wanted to be the audience. He started this. I want to be the audience.
Yeah.
I like the audience part because, I think that it gives my two co-hosts an opportunity to share some stuff that I don't have and that I might miss. So I'm just delighted to be a part of the audience and see both of you guys back. And I have some.
I don't know if the people can hear you. If you want to grab the mic.
Oh yeah.
I'm just delighted to have both of you guys back because you've been on a cruise and she's been dealing with the city of Atlanta.
Yeah, I've been going through it.
So I know you got a lot to say, both of you guys. What I really wanted today, it was an opportunity for Trish to tell us a little bit more about her package.
I just forgot to just bring the package here, just rushing going on. But my organization is Veterans of Virtue. And my battle buddy and I started this after our deployment from Baghdad. And when we returned home, we both realized that we had some issues and we were not the same. And this made us go down a journey of self-awareness, finding holistic ways to heal of our triggers, our traumas that we had, things that were really triggering us. Even me now to this day, I'm triggered by seeing parked cars on the highway. I'm very much triggered by that, just from experience of vehicle-borne IEDs, and having a relative that passed from a vehicle-borne IED, and she was the first woman from Connecticut to die. And the street that we grew up on, they renamed it after her, and we joined together. And a year later after she passed, I was in the same base, same Camp Liberty, where she passed. And it that itself was triggering. And so it really is the grace of God that I even, I'm here today, because it could have been me, right, out of the both of us. And just the experience there, coming back home and trying to adjust back home to civilian life was a challenge in itself, not even just including the experience that we had, literally living every day like it's your last. Well, it is not normal for the human mental capacity to go through that. And so, and even not even if you've been in the military, just any trauma that you have had, it's just not normal for our human psyche to endure that type of thing. So it's very normal for it to change you in some kind of way, whether you think so or not. But we did realize that it did change us. And we did have some triggers, and we did have some things that needed addressing. And we both experienced, being prescribed medication for depression and all these other, things. And really and truly, I just being transparent, some of those medications made my hair fall out, made me gain weight, made me break out, and it caused a whole other issues that I didn't have previously. So that made us go on a journey of finding healthy, holistic ways of dealing with our issues. It is possible. They try to call it, alternatives, different healing modalities. Yeah. They try to find different ways to put it. But in our experience, it has been more effective than a lot of the Western medicine that is being pushed. And something as easy as essential oils, having a headache, being stressed out, and just having lavender oil and inhaling that is aromatherapy. That is scientifically proven to lower your stress. And there's so many ways: journaling, art, even medicine. There's natural medicine that is included. I'm so sorry I didn't bring it. And I will bring it next week. We have different packets that have natural stress-reducing vitamins that has been proven to work. And even if it just takes you, 2 minutes to just calm down, get in a right frame of mind. Sometimes we just trip out and we're triggered by, our experiences. One little thing can trigger us into something and we just spiral into darkness. Yeah. And it really happens. And this is why we're losing 22 veterans a day. Yeah. Because once you spiral, it's hard to come back out of that. And so what we are promoting is natural ways to combat your stress, natural ways to deal with your triggers, your traumas, talking to someone. We have life coaches, we have herbalists, we have just a team of people who are aware of our traumas and know how to deal with it. And that's included with our package that we have with the natural vitamins, the roller, the essential oils, the books, the journals. It's just a plethora of things that can be used to reduce stress, minimize, negative thoughts, mind management, which is very important, and is not talked about, is managing the thoughts that you have in your mind. Because a lot of times we entertain the negative thought, and that is what causes the spiral. A lot of times we have moral injury because we, in our military journey, we've had to do things that went against our own moral codes. Right. Yeah. And that causes a lot of guilt, and that causes a lot of stress and trauma too. So there's a lot of factors that do cause us to be in the demographic of where we are with suicide, with mental health, with depression. And another thing that's not really being addressed is physically, your physical health. It sounds like such a cliche, you are what you eat, but that's very much literal. It's very much literal. And I have to testify because I have healed myself of obesity, of depression, of thyroid, hypothyroid, cysts on my ovaries, just a slew of issues. Yeah. And some of it probably was caused by the shots that I got from the military in our deployments, the things that I was eating, the lifestyle that I had. But that wasn't a healthy lifestyle at all. And changing my lifestyle, changing my eating habits, changing what I eat played a major, major role on my emotions, my health, and my overall wellness. And that's another thing we want to push too is physical health and wellness, eating natural, organic food. And a lot of these foods now are processed, heavily processed. It has a lot of chemicals that our body does not know how to process, and a lot of preservatives. If it's going to stay in your shelf for 12 years, it's going to stay in your gut for 12 years, and because of all the preservatives and chemicals that are in there. And it has negative effects on our body. Our body is not designed to break down a lot of the things that were chemically made in a lab. And so we want to promote physical health, emotional health, mental health. It is possible. My battle buddy, and just so many other testimonies of healing ourselves of the traumas, the triggers, the physical ailments that we have just by changing our lifestyle. And that is what VOV is about. So Veterans of Virtue, vetsofvirtue.com. You can go on there and read about what we do. We update, the workshops that we have with life coaches, with specialists, with professionals. We have workshops just passing and giving and talking about this information on how you can change your lifestyle just by practical little changes, and just applying little changes, and you'll see such a major outcome. So that's what we have been promoting and pushing, is overall wellness and health for our veterans, because it's not talked about enough.
That's really interesting. But was the Veteran Administration offering any kind of counseling as you were going through the initial stages of realizing what was happening to you, or trying to figure out what was happening to you?
Yeah, when we returned home, they offered to speak to a chaplain and things like that, but a lot of times you would be, your stay would be extended. Like, we're trying to go home. We are deployed for a year and a half. We're not trying to stay any longer than we have to. We're ready to go home. But we knew that if we did say, hey, right off the bat, coming home off, demobbing, if we say, you know what, I'm having these issues here, I need to talk to someone, you're automatically going to stay for another 5 or 6 weeks. They're going to keep you there. They're going to, make sure that we're not trying to do that. We're trying to go home. We have seen enough. We're ready to go home. But when I did return home, the VA, I did have some counseling. I did speak to a therapist. I can't say it was most helpful, because it's not as if they're providing solutions, it's just there to kind of listen. Yeah. So it's not like they're saying, hey, well, I'm having these bad dreams and it's waking me up, it's causing lack of sleep. What do I do? Yeah. They're not really saying, okay, well, you can do this, this, and this, and actually like helping. They're just there to kind of let me talk it out and listen. Okay. So there are pros and cons to it. Maybe that method of just talking to someone can help. So I don't want to take that away from them. Right. Maybe just talking will help that particular individual. For me, it didn't.
It didn't. When did the drugs treatment portion kick in? Was that part of how we're going to treat this through using drugs?
Yes, actually, on my first visit to the VA. And I just told him that my sleep was all jacked up. Okay. And I was having, nightmares of reoccurring things that happened over there. And off rip, I was prescribed like the highest dosage. Oh, off okay. Rip. And that is another thing too, with a lot of the that our vets are experiencing. It's like it's not a slow transition up. It's going from 0 to 100. Yeah. And anybody's body is going to be affected by that. When you have a chemical dump of all these chemicals in your body, God knows how it's going to affect you mentally, emotionally, all through your body. Yeah, because all of a sudden you're dealing not only with the mental stress, but also the side effects of some of those drugs. Yeah, and if you listen to it, a lot of them say, well, it does cause suicidal thoughts, depression. Yes. Like, well, that's why I'm taking this, to prevent me from doing that. It's going to push me further. Yeah. How does that even make sense? Yeah. It doesn't make sense. No, it doesn't. And there are alternatives. I have to keep letting us veterans know there are alternatives to the Western medicine that is being pushed. It does have its place. Yes, it does. Yeah. But it's being abused and misused, and it's not the end-all, be-all. It's not the only way to heal us from our issues. But unfortunately, a lot of times, that is the easiest way for a large organizations like the VA to deal with, particularly the numbers of cases that they were dealing with. It's understandable that they were, well, let's go this route, not knowing, and I'm quite sure they probably didn't know all of the side effects and the effects and the results and the withdrawal that happens doing that. But they, that's a quick and easy way to get you through this session and back out onto the street, which you realize you weren't ready for. Not at all. Yeah. Not at all. Yeah. And it's something that is not talked about, and how it also leads to drug use.
Yes, yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I hesitate to say it, but it's true.
yes.
You know, it does lead to other heavier drug usage.
Yes.
And it does turn one into a zombie. Even the drugs that's prescribed, like it takes away almost like your soul, like your being.
Yeah.
You turn into a zombie. And it's almost like a suppressed zombie, you know.
Right,
It's not,
yes.
it's like you can't talk, you don't have free will, you know, you're not thinking for yourself.
Yeah.
It really does kind of almost mummify.
Legal that will change the way I feel.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
now that's a dangerous mixture
Yes.
for someone who's trying to recover.
Yes,
Because-
and alcohol too, you know,
Yeah.
and admittedly, at one point I did drink a lot because it numbed me.
Yes.
It numbed my pain. It numbed my emotional pain. It numbed the mental pain. It just numbed me,
Yeah.
you know, and I wanted to stay in that state of numbness. But it really took me having to deal with it, lean into it, heal from it so that I'm going to be healed so that I'm just, you know, that's my way of numbness. But I completely understand people that do go to the drugs and do go to the alcohol because it does numb you. So the question is, how do we heal ourselves so that we don't have to turn to those alternative drugs that are, you know, is making us worse. Even the drugs that are prescribed are making us worse.
Yeah.
So what are the alternatives? And this is why VOV was born. You know, it goes back to it. This is why, because we understand what's going on. We've been there, we've done that, and we understand that there are other ways to heal us and our traumas and triggers.
Yeah. The interesting part about that is you recognize that. These are professionals that are supposed to be treating you.
You're right.
Aren't they willing to acknowledge the fact that they are aware of the possibilities of codependence from the drugs they're prescribing, plus the availability of legal drugs out
Right,
there.
and it's on the package that
Yes.
it can cause, you know,
Right.
dependency, you know, on it. So the fact that a lot of us are prescribed 0 to 100 million milligrams, you know, that is a way to create codependency and to lead to other drugs, because now your body's getting this dump of chemicals, dopamine, all this other stuff, and you're going to chase that high. You're going to chase that numbness, and you're going to find other drugs to do that. And that is what needs to be addressed as well. You know, in our community. So.
It is so unfortunate having that information available as a clinician and seeing that yet for some reason they don't seem to want to do anything about it. You know, it's an easy way out. Yes.
It is scary to dive into.
I just want to interject this.
Is your mic on?
Hello.
Yeah.
VA is driven by pharmaceuticals. You know, we just got to face that reality. That VA treatment is driven by pharmaceuticals.
Right.
What I have, since I tried your package, I've wanted to have your group decide to talk with the DOD, because I think it would be a good package to give to people that are being discharged, that are being discharged, coming back into the community, that it would be a non-drug way of them dealing with this transition, the transitional strip.
He doesn't want to sit up here. He wants to be in the audience. Can you hear? Okay.
You know, well, because I took it. And I had transitional problems coming out of Vietnam because I was wounded in combat. So I had these transitional issues. I know if I had had that package, or my mom had had it, let me put it like this, she was the one that saw the issue. You know, right off bat, your family see the difference between what left home and what's coming back home.
Mm-hmm.
If they had the tools, and I think that's one tool that could be interjected into the transitional process. As far as I'm concerned, that would give the individual something that they could deal with when they start feeling these issues, these triggers. And you know, even though I didn't want to tell my mom I'm having a problem, I'm a paratrooper.
Yeah,
I'm a tough guy, so you know, we're not willing to open up, you know, but we know that something is different when we're coming home. If we could get that package, that tool, that just one little kit in a transitional mode for people that's coming in, especially when your exit exam, no.
Yeah.
Your exit exam say so. You know, I mean, I can say this because I look at exit exams every time I do a claim. You know, to see, I look at the entry exam and the exit exam. And in a lot of cases, the exit exam says something that not being communicated to the releasee. You know, I had to go back and look at my own exit exam. And there was some stuff on there that I didn't know. They done showed that I had some mental issues after being wounded. But they didn't tell me. They didn't have anything to give me to help me deal with the issues. And I'm saying that I would love to be a part of helping you get that to deal with it.
Yeah.
Because I personally experienced it. And it made a big difference in my triggers. How I handle my triggers. It gave me a calmer persona. And I think that's what's needed when you...
Yeah, we're currently working on that right now. My business partner is in Washington, D.C., and I'm in talks here with Atlanta VA, and they have a program where they're working with grassroots organizations to push whatever that organization is doing. And so we are working or beginning to work with the VA in Washington, D.C. and here in Atlanta to do that, to push that. And another thing that I wanted to mention too is that in my everyday life, I work with women who are returning home from prison. And I created a program that is designed to reduce recidivism. So I have created a program with financial literacy, digital literacy, mental health, emotional health, and everything in between. But I do see a lot of parallels with people coming home from prison and people coming home from the military and active duty. There are a lot of parallels there when it comes to transitioning home, and that includes financial literacy, job readiness, mental health, behavioral health, you know, and knowing your surroundings, knowing yourself, knowing how you're responding in certain environments. And it just takes an awareness and offering practical solutions.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want to just talk about the problem. We want to offer solutions. Okay, if this doesn't help, try all these other 10 remedies right here, you know, and we're not saying that VOV is end all be all. We're just saying we're another source here for your help. But look, you have all these resources. If this doesn't work, apply this one. If that doesn't work, apply that one until you are where you want to be, until you are your highest and best self, until you're thriving on the level that you want to be on. And so it comes in so many ways, you know, even with financial literacy. I had to teach myself. I joined the military at 16, so I was dependent on the military for a long time. They kind of raised me, you know, and getting off that, I had to learn financial literacy, how to become dependent on my own, how to manage money, how to manage myself, how to manage, you know, household things, you know, how to, you know, manage my thoughts, manage my mental capacity. And these are the things that are not addressed and talked about when it comes to making sure that once a citizen is returning home, whether from prison, whether from active duty, that they have all the tools to make sure that they don't go back.
Yeah. The challenge I see with that even the prison ministry or the military, is expedience. They want to get you out of the military. This is the situation we're dealing with, and you have spent your allotted time in the military. Now it's time for you to transition. So we're going to get you to the point to where you can transition back. And unfortunately, that's the sad part about it, because you're forcing people either from the military or from the prison system back into a public that they aren't ready to handle. The sad part is that, particularly the military, they do an exceptional job of transitioning you from citizenship to the military. They give you all of the training, all the steps. They're watching your growth as you transition this period. However, leaving, it is just the opposite. It's that, we created this, and now we don't need it anymore, and so we're going to give it back to the public instead of treating it as it leaves the way you treated it when you brought it in. We were all strategically taught how to live with other people, one-on-one in close situations, how to react in so many different situations that, I have to give it to the military. They were exceptional at training people for the military and for war, and even for terrorism. However, once you've done your time and you're no longer of value to them, now they're going to say, okay, we got what we want out of this. Now we're going to give you back to the public, and the public's not ready, and you're not ready for the public. There's no way you're going to be able to transition from that military lifestyle where 4 or even 20 years, you spent in this chain of command, instructions, living, all of that, back into a civil community that doesn't know anything about how you were trained, how you were treated, and now you're dealing with this. And so you're dealing with your trauma. Add to that the availability of numbing drugs, provided by them and the illegal ones. And so that's an awful lot to put 22, 23-year-old man in, or woman, or someone who has been in for 20 years with that type of training, with that type of back into a public that, the public doesn't know about that military license. They know it exists, but they don't understand all the intricacies dealing with living in the military.
That's right.
And so it's a challenge. It is a challenge. And the sad part about it is it would be a great opportunity for them to develop a program for transitioning people back into the civil society. It would make all the difference in the world. Plus, it would make the military be what we thought the military was going to be when we joined, not realizing that they was just going to push it to the curb after it was all over.
That's a great point. We got exceptional training to prepare them for what they wanted us to be. And if they had that same energy with transitioning or out of it, it would be amazing. It would be amazing. It's like you created a monster, but you didn't prepare the monster to for society. How do you tame the monster? To go and be a civilized human being back into society. And that's definitely not talked about.
I think. I'm hoping the OD is watching the show. I'm hoping the community is watching the show, because what you guys are talking about now could actually equip families to help undermine the suicide rate.
Yes.
I mean, really, I keep going back to this because of my own transitional issues. My issues were so horrendous that 15 days after I'm home, I'm in a padded cell at Fulton County Jail. Because there were no help, no tools, no understanding. And when I I got triggered. I'm triggered at a welcome home party. You know, out here, the blasting going on Fort Industrial. I hit the ground and holler incoming. They laughed at me. So you can't laugh at me. I get my 30-30 and I scout everybody. Knowing the transitional issues that we have, you know, and they're real. They're real. And the idea that transitioning from prison is almost the same as transitioning from the military. I can bear witness. It is the same kind of emotional thing. I had to get used to riding in a car that was doing 30 miles an hour because I hadn't had any.
Right.
You know, so there's no help for transition.
Exactly.
The mental part of that is so critical with recidivism and with suicides.
Yes.
You know, if we could get this information to what you talking about and the product, the service, into our community, into the homes of people that's welcoming their loved ones back out of the military and prison, I think you will see a radical difference.
I agree.
In what we're looking at.
I agree.
So I'm really appreciating being in the audience. I'm getting a chance to look at the show in a different way. You know, we want it to be informational. We want it to be helpful. And what you guys are doing now is absolutely based in terms of undermining the suicides and recidivism.
Yeah.
You know, because recidivism is a part of a mental perspective.
Right.
You know, you coming back into a community that you've been separated from. You got some mental issues, or you wouldn't be coming back into the community in the first place. You went to prison, you done did some stuff that, you know, only a person with mental problems would do.
Right.
We need the information that you guys are giving today in every discharge package.
Yes.
Every discharge package. And I'm gonna make a commitment. I'm gonna work to help see that done.
Yeah.
Because I know personally what I took my family through and what I took my community through. You know, I mean, the way I had a guy say, well, you don't look like you've been through all of that. Well, I'm glad I don't look like that.
Really?
For
Yes.
that.
Yes.
That'd be a rough looking thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's something that we set up to do, Tony, and you know we set up to make this information. And I think this is the best show we had in a while.
Yeah.
Because it addresses some critical problems that nobody is working on.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
We need to get to this. This is, and I'm going to tell you something. It will deal with the violence that, see, a lot of people don't realize that we create violence through mental illnesses that's unaddressed. You know, that's really unaddressed. And the way it's running rampant in our community today, you know, there's no response to it on the level that you guys are talking about today. So the children that's being around us are being affected. You know?
Exactly.
We're creating a problem
Yes.
that we got the solutions to right here.
Yeah.
So I just want to salute you guys.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Because this is something that we got to get out.
Yes.
You know, something got to happen because it will undermine some serious problems that we are having in our community.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about. It's about breaking the cycle of trauma. Somebody has to be the one to dismantle the cycle that we have been perpetuating for a long time and just dealing with it. Because we deal with it. That's what we as melanated people do, is we gonna deal with it. We can go through hell. We gonna sing our way, dance our way, and joke our way through any kind of trauma that we're going through. That's how we deal with how we deal with our trauma.
And that was part of our training.
That was part of it.
When those situations come up, you learn to deal with it.
Yeah.
Then you rely back on all of the training that you've had so that you know how to deal with that situation.
Yeah.
And you deal with it.
That's right.
And to do that for 10, 20, 30 years in the military, and then you come out
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now you don't have to deal with the stuff that you've been dealing with the same way you dealt with it in the military.
Yeah,
You know?
it's gonna fester.
Yes.
It's gonna turn into something that probably shouldn't be turned into. You know, and just the suppression of it, the suppression of our emotions, the suppression of our feelings, the things that we're going through, the mental strain that we're going through. The suppression of that is detrimental to us. It is very much, in the literal sense, killing us. And so there has to be another way that we deal with that, and it has to come from somebody collectively or us breaking the cycle of deal with it.
Right. Yeah.
I don't want to suppress it. I am going to deal with it, but I'm going to deal with it differently this time. I'm going to break that cycle. I'm going to change that paradigm. I'm going to change how I do things, how I think about things. I'm going to seek out other alternatives to healing. Somebody has to be the one to do and say, hey, this worked for me. I'm see if it works for you. And that's what we're doing. Like, see if it works for you. If it's not, hey, look, I know someone else that can help. I know this, this. There's so many, options out there, and we know what the problem is, and now it's time to provide solutions to those problems and activate it and do it. It's all about the application of it too. Like, knowledge is power, really, but it's the application of that knowledge that'll really change everything. We have to just do it, and once we get to that, I think we'll see a huge, tremendous collective change, huge collective healing, and that will quite naturally change to the generation and the children after us too. But we are subjecting them to violence. We're subjecting them to a trauma version of ourselves, a trauma culture, a violent culture, a death culture. We are subjecting them to that, and that's where they're going to continue. But it has to be a shift in that type of paradigm, that behavior, that thought process, and for us to see anything, it just has to.
Right now, I'm having problems with VA in that. When I tell them about my condition and things that's bothering me, first thing they want to do is give me drugs.
Exactly.
And I've told them when I first went in there, I don't take no drugs, I don't take no x-rays. Is there a way that I can enter your program through them?
Through the VA, I don't think you would need to go through the VA, so to speak, to get our services. But what we can do is just exchange numbers now, and when we have, those workshops, or the people that I know, the resource that I have, lend them to you and give them to you and see how it helps you, and really that's what it's about. No, it's workshops that we have as our company. We have these workshops. We get these professionals in certain fields with physical, mental, emotional, spiritual health. We find these professionals and we have workshops to help you with that, where you can ask those questions, because we're not professional in that. We've experienced it. So I guess in a sense we have our own professionalism because we've experienced and gone through it. But
roll off what Tracy has raised, because I'm a claim guy. I file claims, and the claim process is really biased against us, and the biggest bias is because of the way they do notes, medicals. Now there is a procedure at VA in the claim process that they call support letters. They call support letters. Now these are from lay people, and they carry just as much weight as medicals do in certain areas. And in the mental health industry, it carries a lot, because what happens, you're only with your doctors, your exams an hour or less. You live with people, or you're in groups with people. So if your group could actually do a behavioral report a behavior report that would be supportive of a claim.
Okay.
You know, that actually talk about the treatment, the therapeutic treatment, and the holistic stuff that's involved with that. It would carry just as much weight,
Okay.
you know, as a medical.
Right. Okay.
Because it would augment the medicals that they have at VA.
Right.
So I'm really really glad that Trey asked that question, because right now I'm trying to find ways to augment those medicals that we get from VA, because they're always insufficient to actually rate the condition of African Americans.
Yeah.
If you're not taking care of your personal hygiene, that means you're sick. And my culture, if my sister saw me ain't shaved, they're gonna go buy me a razor and some stuff to shave. They're gonna tell you, you ain't finna do that. See, so it is a culture thing. And I tell guys that, you know, and you can, it's in writing, that if your hygienes are unkept, that means your condition is bad. Your hygienes can be well kept in our community, and your condition is bad.
Yeah, right.
So you should come from people that are interacting with you and that can talk about your behavior and how that behavior is affecting your every day.
Yeah. So the community.
And it should also be, I think it should also be an integrated option within VA. Then you can access programs like this as an alternative program.
Well, now I'm thinking
That's a great idea.
that we are on the verge of that with the whole health initiative that VA is already in. They're talking about it, but they're not providing any of the whole health methodologies, right? They're not providing alternatives to pharmaceuticals yet, but they're talking about it. They're teaching people about it. That they don't have any problem with you going out doing it, but right now they are not going to prescribe it and pay for it. But you know that could be down the road if veterans vote right
or insist on it.
Well, I said we vote right. That's an insistence. Get these politicians that want our votes to put some legislation in the house
or alternative treatment.
For non-pharmaceutical treatment, they should have natural pathological treatments available for veterans that reject pharmaceutical treatment.
But now they're trying to criminalize herbal, natural remedies. They're trying to put it in like the drug category, and they're trying to criminalize natural remedies, which is crazy because it's almost like trying to legalize or illegalize God. Like natural God-made things. You're trying to illegalize it.
You see VA moving towards some of that with the whole health project, and the states where they have legalized it, they're actually prescribing marijuana for PTSD.
Yes, they are. Actually, the first doctor that I went to in New York at the VA, she was saying, I'm not telling you to do it, but if you're going to do anything, I would just stick with the marijuana. She said, I have too many soldiers that are on these really heavy drugs like the coke, the crack, all these other things. And she was like, if you're going to do anything, that's probably the safest thing to do. But just stay away from all that heavy stuff. And so they are, they're just not, you can't get away from natural remedies. Like there is a place for Western medicine, but there's a place for natural remedies as well. We have to, know our place, know what works and what doesn't work, but you can't demonize and criminalize one or the other because it doesn't line your pockets. And that's wrong in every sense of the word. It's immoral, and it's not something that we should stand by and just let them sit here and do that. You can't criminalize God. It's insane.
Well, because of you guys, what you talking about today, I think the people that's listening don't have this conversation. Because it is a conversation that we need to have
Definitely.
with our elected officials and with our families.
For sure.
You know, because we do need to get the hard drug stuff out of our communities because it's destroying us.
It is.
You know, and I think if we start talking about more holistic remedies that work, and you got a package that work.
Yeah.
You know, so we need to keep this conversation going to make it a household conversation.
Yeah.
We need to become a household conversation where we're talking with our loved ones when we know they got problems. Now we see them with these problems.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes because of the stigma of mental illness,
Yeah.
we don't want to have that conversation.
Yeah.
But we need to have it. We
Yeah.
got to start having this conversation because otherwise the pharmaceuticals now, and you can check the medicine, they would tell you that mental health drugs cause tardive dyskinesia. It's a serious illness. It's an add-on because of the medication
Yes.
that's being taken. We need to start having more brothers like Tracy that will stand up to the VA and say, I'm not taking it.
Right. Yes.
That's right.
I'm not taking it because I know what it's going to do to me.
Right.
And the VA should be big enough to provide an alternative.
Yeah. I think the VA just has to listen to the people.
Yeah.
We have to. We have been screaming from the mountaintops of things that are not working, things that might be working, things that we need. And it's really just a matter of them listening to the people and giving us what we need and what we want. And it really is that simple because we know us. We know what we need. But then again, I think that providing alternatives too, like you have to know the vastness of opportunities, the vastness of options that are out there, and you choose what works for you. But we are so narrow-minded in our selection that we are forced to just do this one path. It's not working, so what do? We're stuck, literally stuck in this one lane that is detrimental to us. And so, you know, with problems, I always like to offer solutions. There are many solutions. Find your local everything. Even find your local herbalist and support them. Find your local mental health specialist. Find your local everything. And talk to them, even your local veteran, even your neighbor, you know, a veteran that you trust, because a lot of times peer mediation works well too. Talking to somebody who's been through what you've been through, who understands, can bring a whole load of therapy and stress relief as well.
That's why support groups are so important, because it now gives the patient an opportunity to tell the physician, this is what I'm experiencing.
Right.
This what's worked. I heard so-and-so say this works, and I want to experience, you know, whatever their experience, because they're no longer having those trauma situations that I am still having. You know, and so, you know, a conversation with the VA, and the willingness to, for some reason, they want to slap a lot of money, put a patch on it, and move on to the next thing. And that's not going to solve the problem. It's going to leave that patient out there on his own with that solution that's only going to last for so long until that drug wears off, and then he's back where he was before, as opposed to being someone like Tracy said, I'm not taking that. That doesn't work for me. Now it forces them to let's look at an alternative. But unfortunately, I don't think they're willing to be big enough to consider alternatives, because that's something in addition to what they really don't want to do.
And a lot of times, the alternative is cheaper than what they're doing.
Exactly. Very much more affordable and cost efficient too.
And I think you got, in some cases, you have to build the conversation to the point that it becomes politics. We're doing something in Atlanta that I'm really, Fulton County that I'm really proud of with the Sons of Atlanta. It's given us a platform. Now we actually went into Forest Park last month to have an event. Talking with the mayor, she gave us 2 days in her community center that she gonna promote to the veterans in her community.
I hate to interrupt you, but we're approaching the end of our time.
Yes.
This is an awesome topic, and I think it's something that we need to continue at one of our next Veterans Talks.
Yes.
So we want to invite everybody to join us from 4 to 5 o'clock every Saturday here on Lyve TV, because we've got something to say, as you've seen today, and you want to hear what we got to say.
That's right.
See you next week.
This is Vet Talk.